everybody. This is the panel together for you guys for talking about VR. I'm Emiliano, and acting as the chair of the VR-based IT at OGA. And we have for you panelists that have been asking to introduce themselves right now. A little bit late for in we're not waiting for. Okay, all right. So that's cool. Let's start it. So because we're starting late, so we have in Neil and Wanda. So my name is ready. So here we go. I'm gonna pass the microphone because I'm speaking loud in the back. So you guys speak too loud, otherwise it's pretty hard to get.
Hi, Guillaume. I'm working at Starbreeze, the game developer based in Sweden. We do the Walking Dead games, and we started VR 1 year ago. And we have a strategy to open a VR center everywhere. And we also develop our headsets, so try to have a hand-to-hand solution.
Yeah, hi, I'm Kim Pelser. I work for Intel, and I run a group there called the VR Center of Excellence. And we're a big company that's doing a lot of areas that touch on VR, and so we kind of coordinate all the efforts and the strategy for the community.
My name is Neil Schneider. I'm Executive Director for the Immersive Technology Alliance, or the ITA. It's the trade organization for immersive technologies such as VR, AR, and stereoscopic 3D. And I also run MTBS, or MTBS-TV.
Hi, I'm Wanda Maloney. I'm the Executive Director of the Open Gaming Alliance. And I have been a market analyst for many years, but the goal of the Open Gaming Alliance is to be a business trade association to support the games industry in terms of growth and technology and innovation.
I have another one. Yeah. So what I wanted to do, she said she wanted to do a table ronde, which actually is more like let's all get together and chat about VR. But we turn that into more like a panel where we can answer questions. And so I'm going to be asking a few questions to get started. But really, what we'd like to do, and that's why there's two microphones actually, I guess. So there's one that can go in that side of the room, so you can actually ask us any questions you want about VR. So we are at GDC, that's the Game Developer Conference, and so we like to talk about gaming and entertainment in general, but more about gaming and VR, which is the main focus of the panel. There's a lot of use of VR. There's a lot of different kind of games as well. So we try to focus on that. And the idea for today is a question we ask ourselves all the time during the last, I'm going to say 6 months, which is about what category, what kind of experience the users of VR should expect. What does it mean to have a VR experience? And is there any different category of experiences? How would I know if I'm gonna go to a VR, have my VR system, go to a place that has VR? How would I read about what kind of experiences that I'm gonna be immersed in, and how is that gonna be very intense, not very intense? Is that gonna be what kind of interaction I can have with the environment? Is that social? Is that something just for me and private? So how do you categorize all those different kind of experience that you have with VR, and which one? How do you communicate with the end users, and which one are the most the one that we should see coming soon, or experience that, according to the panelists, would have no future actually, as far as the gaming and VR experience. So that's the first question. It's kind of a big question. So can we just go in the same order? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I think pictures a bit more inspiring. I will tell you more about our experience. Last E3 we launched a first preview of kind of experience around the Walking Dead VR experience, and we built a bus to tour all the Walking Dead convention, and it was really successful, and it gave us a lot of feedback on the field. Roughly 7,000 people played our demo, and it happens that people were ready to pay to play the experience. So I'm going to show you some of the I don't know if there is lost between the screen. So we really enjoy the crowd. So sorry for the sound. So that's the kind of reaction we love. So I'm not here to do some promotion, I'm going to cut the video feed, but that's really what we enjoy. We're a game developer, so the feedback of our gamers is very important. Our strategy is built on that. So all the logistics of the bus was really heavy, so we decided to open a location in LA to keep going that work, to evangelize and show VR in 5 minutes round demo. And we are learning by doing, but the goal is to find how we can monetize VR content in a location. We have all the tools, but really enjoy that, and to be at the forefront facing the end audience. So it's our strategy, but it's based on feedback from the field.
So pretty heavy duty, intense VR and gaming together for
5 minutes.
5 minutes intense VR.
Experience
That's one kind of experience. Kim?
Right. So Remy's question was, what type of experience should consumers expect, or should gamers expect? My tongue-in-cheek answer is magical, right? So you've heard that quote about, sufficiently advanced technology should be indistinguishable from magic. And I think that if you see people try VR for the first time, if it's a system or an experience that's functioning right, it's magical to them. Now, magic can be a sleight of hand that someone sees in front of them, and that can be delightful. It's a small magic, or then they can go to a David Copperfield show and watch the Statue of Liberty disappear, right? And that might not be something they can get at home, to the example of a very sophisticated level of experience, but at any point that they get VR, it should be a delightful experience, and there's a whole kind of range of different levels of immersion that's available to them.
So we should maybe later in the conversation talk about rating virtual reality, because you brought it up in the question, but I'll talk about experiences to start. I'm going to talk about something controversial, actually, because one of in virtual reality, at least, there is this kind of rule of thumb of like no first-person shooters and very I would call it a Puritan outlook on VR and how it should be. But for the really advanced gamers, and when I say advanced, I mean people who will try and experiment with anything. One of the projects we've been involved with at a volunteer basis is an open source project called Vero Perception. And the idea with Vero Perception is we're able to take existing games and make them, I'm going to loosely say VR compliant, because it's not as good as a native VR game, but it's still very thrilling. It's still something that gamers enjoy. But I say it's controversial because it's not a native game. It doesn't have all the criteria that makes for an excellent virtual reality game. But it's still enough that it gets gamers very excited. And it has many of the same features: positional tracking, low latency, wide field of view. But there are clearly advantages with native. But the point is, there are ways to take existing games and bring them into VR. And what's cool is that everyone involved with it is working on a volunteer basis because they're that passionate about VR. So that is actually, I think, even a better story. But again, it's controversial because, amongst the VR content makers and the technology makers, everyone is with good reason supporting native content.
I think when we talk about sort of the experience, we have to look at the consumer in terms of what is the outcome and what are we targeting for each experience. Is it cardboard? Is it mobile? Is it PC? And what we're trying to do is define a little bit better what those experiences are, because at the consumer level, there's still obviously a lot of confusion, and a cardboard experience isn't going to be the same as a PC experience. So, and then a cinematic experience isn't going to be as the same thing as just a games experience, where it's much more interactive. And how do we message that to consumers, I think, is the big thing. And I'm hoping we're working on it to try and come up with some definitions around it, but it's still really early. And I think until we sort of get that locked down a little better, there's going to be confusion in the marketplace.
So, you'll share the microphone, and I want to ask you, there was OGA and ITA, two big organizations, and there was a press release, right? There was the two organizations are working together to around VR, right? So is it going to help to define what the different category of VRs are? I mean, how do you see that happening with the consumer? Is that consumer-centric what you're trying to do, or?
Okay, so truth be told, we've been working together a long time. It's only news because it was in the press release, but really, this is an example where we've worked together on events like this, and we just put pen to paper that we announced it. But between the organizations, like the IT is very specialized when it comes to immersive technology, like virtual reality, augmented reality, 3D. The organization goes back to 2009. And OGA has this expertise, which is far broader than that. So by collaborating together, it benefits both their memberships. But as far as rating systems and so on, that's actually a separate conversation. I don't think it's an organizationally dependent conversation. But short answer, we are, of course, working together and building on each other's strengths.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. We talk, every couple of weeks, and I think the idea is really just to, as we move forward with the collaborations, is how do we best define some of these standards and experiences, and we're kind of looking to the community as well to bring some of those concepts to how we can best work with the industry to make it grow. Because if it doesn't grow, honestly, if the developers can't make money, then we have a problem. And from the OGA perspective, and I think from the IT's perspective, that's the key, right? We need to make sure that we have a healthy, solid industry moving forward where the developers are making money off of it.
So, in relation to what we said about different kind of experience, if you're a developer, which category of experience? It's clear what Starbucks is doing as far as category and where we're investing and so forth. But if you're, what other is a pretty successful movie. First of all, that's a VR experience, right? You actually need a VR device to experience a 360 movie. You can look around and watch the movie and discover things behind you, or that's kind of a low. There's some interactivity because you look around. There's not as interactive if you are inside a virtual world with full motion, right? You can move around like element where you have your and so you have the controller, controllers and so forth. So you have this whole range of experiences, and this also corresponds to the whole range of prices, I would say, or a whole range of and consumers. And where would you, as a developer today, which one of those would you develop for? All of them, one? Can you make something that would go across all those genres, those categories, or which one do you think is going to be the most prominent VR experience coming out for developers to make money?
Why is everyone looking at me? Everyone's like.
So I'm not a developer, all right. I'm not a games developer, and so I caution anyone that would take my advice and run with it. The scale and kind of the number of low cost cardboard and that style of device that are going to be out there is really interesting, but I think the jury's still out on whether consumers that get a free cardboard accessory for the phone as part of a movie promotion are then going to go drop money on games, right? You should keep an eye on that market. There is an enthusiast market that's paying for content today. It's mostly DK2 owners that called themselves developers to get a dev kit, and they just wanted access to hardware right away, and there's a small number of them, and they're buying titles. But whether that, to Wanda's point earlier, whether that gets to, or when it gets to significant enough size to invest, millions of dollars in developing titles, where I invest money right now is, what partners would be footing the bill for me and taking risks, what publishers or hardware vendors would, because there isn't yet an install base. So, look to see where the install base materializes of paying customers, and that'll be good.
So Guillaume, actually, sorry.
Yeah, I just would add, just so I understand the question is which experiences are appropriate for which device?
Well, there's that question, but also if you're a developer, and definitely we always have topic and you want to, which market seems to be the most prominent? People, there's you have Oculus is being sold since day one, right? And same thing for Vive, and so there's a market there, but it's the beginning, right? When you're starting to do, I remember Guillaume saying before the panel saying, well, when PlayStation started, everybody only wanted it 2 years before there was a number of PlayStation available, so you can actually make money doing games for PlayStation. It looks like it was the same both for VR. So if you want to invest millions of dollars to make a game for VR, you need to have customers.
Let's resolve it this way. How many people here are developing games for VR? 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. What platform are you developing for?
Gear VR.
Gear VR?
Vive,
Yeah.
Oculus.
Sorry, what was that?
Vive and Oculus.
Vive. Okay, so one at the high end and one at the mobile-based gear as well. Okay, so there you go. 66% of developers.
But that's
small sample size.
But would it be better? But would it be better to have looking at IT and OGA? Can a game work on all the platforms? Do you have to choose which platform you want? And if you have to make it work on all the platforms, what kind of constraint that puts on your game, on all your development? What do we do to help with that?
So I'm Canadian, so I'll say the medium is the message, okay? And when we're talking about the different platforms, so if we're going to compare Gear VR to the higher end like a Rift or HTC Vive, they're orders of magnitude apart. I mean, it's the difference between being powered by a smartphone and being powered by a water-cooled, dual-core graphics card. So the nature of the technology will determine the experiences. So this is one of the reasons why it's just a personal opinion. I think 360 cinema is going to be very popular on mobile because it's not processor intensive. You can pump content out. It's easy to access when you're wearing a head-mounted display. But meanwhile, the desktop solutions are really perfectly outfitted for those rich virtual reality experiences, which actually got us all excited about this in the first place. So it's the nature of the technology that's going to help determine, which experiences are appropriate.
I'll add one thing, which is if you look at the kind of initial portfolio of Gear VR titles, whether from Samsung kind of curated or just developers have gone into that space, most of those guys did a version for PC as well, and it does seem like it's kind of I don't know if it's an ongoing thing or if it's a unique window of time, but the people that are getting those high-end PC experiences, they have a limited amount of content to choose from, and there isn't a $100 million game from Rockstar that's being targeted at that platform. It's not that I know of. Maybe there is. So there is, if you look at a game like Keep Talking of the Explodes, right? That it's available both on mobile and on the PC-based solutions, and it's lower fidelity. It's an indie game, but that's okay. It's still a lot of fun. So there might be a category there that we'll see if it exists over time, but of games that can be very immersive, but that they're almost like Wii games, like they don't need to be highly photoreal, etc.
So I wanted to open the mic to the audience. Is there any questions that you want to ask the panel related to what we said, especially the developers? Yeah, Mimi, bring the microphone. Be in the room now.
Hey everyone, so I just got my Gear VR in the mail 2 days ago. Very excited, set it up, went through the instructions, and what I noticed in downloading a bunch of material is that there are different types of experiences available in the platform, right? So I think in terms of the context of who's going to be using that device and that platform, so for example, you've got something you can just stick your phone in and kind of go on the go. So what context might someone in the user group you're targeting be in when they're going to use that experience? Will they be on the train? So will that be a 20-minute train ride? Or will they be sitting on their sofa waiting for their child to bother them to do something, right? So that could be a 5-minute experience. And so then taking that, how do you organize the content in your new library, whether it's Oculus or anything else, to match the experience you want? So, case in point, I downloaded like 30 different things, went to the Oculus store, and now I'm in my headset scrolling through these little teeny things to try and find a game. I don't remember the name of the game. I remember it was a cool meditation game. What's the name of the game? Why can't I look up? Why can't I just say, show me my meditation game? Or, I want to shoot stuff, show me my first-person shooter games. So that's kind of where I was heading in terms of the experience. Once you can get someone to the content, then how are they going to find it and come back to it? And, of course, if there's in-game purchases to bring that forward. Not really a question, but that was sort of what was on my mind.
So if you look at, if you were to grab a screenshot of the Steam UI when they launched versus today, right? The people evolved the discovery mechanism, the browsability, those kinds of things. So it'll take time for people to figure out what's the mechanism by which I insert all this stuff in UI. Does it make sense to browse the storefront in UI at all, or on a different device? I think the market will need a lot of experimentation to figure that out.
It seems that with a VR headset, you can translate motion tracking across different platforms. You've got stereoscopic rendering, you have head tracking, and that's the interface. But the peripheral, the other types of input, there's a lot of divergence. Are there any opinions on, is that going to converge in a particular type of input? And tying to what you've already said, how does that affect the kind of experiences that emerge on the different platforms?
I think you should try to address that, because as an arcade, if you have to, you know, how's it going to work, you know?
Yeah, if it's going to define what the platform is, so I think it's good for VR that each platform push for its different take on the input. Because VR is still very young, so we don't need to set for a standard right now. I think it will be beneficial for VR. That's what makes the Wii different from the PlayStation. That's what makes the Nintendo 64 different from the other platforms. The DualShock was different, so I think I don't hope for convergence, because we have convergence right now between the Xbox and the PlayStation Nintendo controller, and it's quite boring. There is no more innovation since 1 or 2 cycles. We went to a point where VR is really the new thing. I think that the lack of innovation in the input is the tip of the iceberg. So I think it's good that the platforms are very strong differentiator. It will work cross-platform port, but the title that will shine will adopt one platform and make the best of it. Always has been like that. So VR is too young to set for the standard convergence. That's the best price for the price to pay for innovation.
Yeah, I think you have to see some balance between support for a lot of, as you were saying, a lot of experimentation in different types of controllers, and also just developers only can swallow so much, right, in terms of supporting 20 different things. So I think you do see some maybe different areas of convergence. You have people doing single button push things for cardboard and stuff like that. People supporting gamepads for Gear VR or a PC solution to gamepad, and then you see the Vive or Oculus Touch type controllers. Beyond that, it's it makes sense for location-based entertainment type stuff where you can do a piece of content that's matched to a particular controller, and that's really immersive and cool. But Mark, a lot for me to see.
Ditto.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think sort of Kim really did sum it up. I think we have what we're seeing is a lot of different devices coming onto market, and I'm quite interested in how developers are going to develop for different things. I really do believe it's going to be a lot of indie developers that are really pushing. I mean, sort of if you look at what happened with mobile, it became kind of an indie. It really what sort of helped push the indie market, and I think that's what we're seeing now with VR. I think we're getting the indies to come in and do a lot of the early push and a lot of the early tweaks and experimentation, and we're taking a lot of risks, and we'll have some big hits off of it. But I think they're the ones that are really just experimenting the most right now.
Thanks. It seems that the lowest common denominator is very low. Someone mentioned a push button. You've got hover, activate if you don't have a button. Earlier there was a discussion about the very small market that used to emerge, and one of the panelists opined that consoles have converged, and it was to their detriment when it was caught boring, but that helps developers. It increases the size of the market. They can run a game for one console and then deliver it across at least the two big consoles with the same controller, dual analog. That's the lack of that commonality in the VR space hurts the financial aspect of the developer maybe being able to deliver a cross-platform game, especially if they aim for something a bit higher end, something with, you know, a tracking controller, which we tend to be higher end versus a push button. They're backing themselves into a smaller niche market.
Yeah, the counter to that point though is if you've tried the Oculus Touch or the Vive controllers, it's clear that needs to exist, right? You can make that argument and say, therefore, we should not go beyond the standard gamepad because it's easier for developers.
I'm not making that argument. I think they're awesome. The controllers are amazing. I just tried, you know, several recently. They're
yes, that's what we're saying about there needs to be balance between not having, you know, too much divergence for developers to, you know, if it becomes too fragmented, and just you know, some amount can be abstracted by game engines and APIs and things like that. But you know, clearly some controllers just are different to support, and if it becomes too much, it's painful. But those are both an example of like how innovation is happening in the space, and people clearly are like, this, you know, we should not assume that that's done yet, right? We're going to see many years of like fantastic things happening.
So you bring a crystal ball with you.
I didn't say what the fantastic things were, just that they're going to happen.
Would you guys say it's maybe safe to say that this is the kind of tech that
This is the kind of tech that there's going to be a lot of trial and error, and maybe certain devices, input devices, will kind of rise organically as everyone decides that this, for different tiers, obviously, of the tech, right? Do you think that's something that's, you know, safe to say, or am I way off on that?
So you were saying that there'll be different tiers of experience?
well, in the context of that different input devices in each of those tiers of say, your push button, your one button push you're talking about, then you know your glove, your full body suit, like.
Yeah, they're kind of related, but not entirely. Like you could do a very immersive, I don't know, driving simulator, right? That is like photoreal and the physics is well done, and you really feel like you're looking in the rearview mirror and stuff, and control with a gamepad, right? Or you could do something that visually is not, you know, as well. If you look at, you know, Job Simulator, right, is not very photoreal. It's very kind of cartoony style rendering or low fidelity rendering, but highly immersive with the controllers. So they're related, but not tied together.
I think developers now are used to cross-platform, so they name common path, major platform. But maybe also one platform with also think that to have one major player goes to 1 to 5, 10, 20 million units, and it's something we should not be afraid of. And it forces each platform to be better, to have its own exclusive content. That need to better content, and that's how it was for 20 years. I don't mind it's beginning again with VR. So that's a possibility that one platform win because better controller. And it took 10 years or 15 years to get this convergence on console. I don't mind waiting for that.
I just want to make sure I understood the question. What was that? You know, are we going to go through this trial and error before we get to the right mix of controller?
Essentially, yes. Like, you know, as we went through the trial and error to get to, you know, the controller gamepads we use now, which, you know, but you still have those niche. Like, I mean, this is dating myself a bit, but there was some mech game a while back that you would have to invest over $100 in a full setup. And I guess my question was a little vague, but I guess my question was, are you expecting to see the same kind of process, or is it kind of like, who knows at this point? Or
You know what? A mentor of mine taught me that it's easier to get from 0 to 80 than it is to get from 80 to 100. So if we were to look at the input controllers on the floor that the big vendors are using, and really unanimous. I think people have been having a wonderful time with the controllers on the show floor, be it touch or the live controllers. I mean, we could probably be at easily 60-70% of what we need. People are enjoying it, the gamers are enjoying it. And then over the next few iterations, we'll get those tweaks that are going to polish it up. Or we may, as you say, there may be completely unique scenarios, like driving scenarios or flight simulators, which are customized. But I don't think we're starting at ground zero. A lot of time and effort went into this. We're seeing experiences that are fully benefiting from them. So we're, I think, 65-70% of where we need to be. But that's just my opinion.
Sure.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Do I agree?
I'm asking.
Honestly, I guess I don't feel like I have enough information. Maybe that's why I was sort of why I brought it up, because I'm honestly not sure at this point. So VR is not my thing. I'm here because I'm very interested in it, but it's not something I'm working with. So.
No questions from the audience. I have a question. If there's no more questions right now, yes.
I just went to a big game show called GMGC in Beijing, and I met a number of Chinese HMD manufacturers, and a few of them are making a standalone VR unit. So it's like on par with Gear VR, but it's standalone. It's like you don't need to insert the phone in it, or the processors or the GPU are in the unit. And they claim that you have the Gear VR like I'll say like performance. Do you think it makes sense? And have you seen any Western manufacturer doing the same thing?
I think I could answer that. I mean, you're welcome to if you want.
Yeah, you go first.
I've seen a couple of them. I actually at CES. I'm not going to name brands, but I have seen some products that are standalone. They don't have a smartphone, but they're using smartphone components. I haven't seen anything competitive yet. Okay, I mean, it's I'll say is I haven't seen anything directly competitive yet.
Like to Gear VR even?
Yeah. It's, I mean, the latency, the resolution, the field of view, people say all kinds of things, but if you were to compare unit to unit, there is a definite difference between the two. Now, I do think what will happen, in the not too distant future is that I think, it's just an opinion, but I think that the mobile technology will become more appropriate for VR on a regular basis. It's not going to be limited to a handful of brands. It's going to be I think it's going to be a far more standardized, basic functionality that we will be able to have a lot more devices similar to Gear VR and others. So long term, those claims are going to hold up. I do believe that.
Yeah, so I went and did a vendor tour with a bunch of companies at Shenzhen and Beijing a couple months back and saw a bunch of those types of devices as well. And so you characterize it pretty well. It's basically, there's lots of different solutions out there. I've only seen a few, but there certainly seem to be a pool of vendors that are kind of taking a Android smartphone style of build of materials and permanently housing it in a what we're calling an all-in-one VR appliance. It's not clear to me whether it's not just, even if you could do as good a job, which technically you should be able to do, it's a question of once you've done that, can you then differentiate it in some way to say, hey, it's worth laying down a few $100s for this device because you already have a smartphone, so here's why it's better than not using your smartphone for that, right? So that kind of remains to be seen. I think there's opportunity there. People could do things like putting 3D cameras in there or different tech that's kind of specifically aimed at VR. It is even that aside, there are at least some markets that it makes sense for, right? If you want to use them in a retail outlet or in location-based entertainment. Many of the places you see people using Gear VR now, they're taking the whole smartphone and kind of, they never take it out of the case and charge it up and give it to people and use it for one app, right? Or if you were a realtor that wanted to like show properties with it or something, those are cases where a dedicated appliance might make sense.
It's personal, but I really believe in it. wireless first, and one usage, as you said, one feature, then a multi-feature product. So the beginning is not really high quality product, but then the component will get better. Like to tell. I think it's going to be a fierce competitor even for PC. So the question remains if position tracking will happen in 5 years. But yeah, we look very at this kind of headset because it's, the ease of use is really a big selling point.
That reminds me of John Petty was doing presentation just before, and he mentioned he looked at this market and he showed the Nintendo DS market, which has the Sony that you were handheld games. So he said in a few years this shop with dedicated hardware to do private gaming will disappear because everybody's going to play with their mobile phone. So maybe it's related to the same question. So, closest.
Oh, yes. My question, I guess, is for Emmanuel, and anybody else that wants to comment about women, female-oriented, and girls projects. I noticed on your website almost everything was, am I talking the right person? It is Emmanuel, right?
He's same company. He's way to
Taking
switch
his place,
speaker.
so a lot of
feel free to blame him if it's a difficult
question. So a lot of the projects that you all are doing are first-person shooters or things that war a lot of violence. Are you creating? And then I saw one children's game. Are you creating anything with women in mind and girls? Like, well, preferably not kids. Like anybody over 18 that is of the female gender.
Not. We are dedicated to one genre mainly. The title for this that you mentioned was win many awards. Just it's our legacy and it's our audience for now. It's going to be hard to branch out. I really look for different experience in VR. It will be a reboot of the game industry and allow different genres to happen. Frankly, I've been in the industry for 15 to 20 years, and I would love to see different things. The business works, there is a market. And as a developer, it's our salary are based on that, and the revenue of the company, and that company like maybe a new media molecule may happen. And yes, I think it will open more social, conscious kind of content. And it's not our role in the ecosystem, but our role is to make the platform emerge, buying hardware, buying games, and then those content can happen. I would love to do that, but that's not the role of our company. It's pure entertainment, this kind of entertainment. But I hope new genre will emerge, as a new platform emerge. Some genre die. If you look at the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2, fighter games totally disappear in between. From PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, the survivor genre, which was very big on PlayStation 2, tend to disappear on PlayStation 3. So every new platform allows new genre to emerge and some to die. I think VR is going to be even bigger in that regard. So the content you want to happen, I think is going to happen on this platform, which is the VR at large.
The question is directed at him, but I'll add my 2 cents worth since I've been doing that so far. So I don't think the way to get more content that appeals to female gamers or VR enthusiasts is to target them. I think the way is to get more female-led studios and female developers involved. So I know that outside of VR, that's something that Intel's really been involved with. We've been driving a lot of kind of diversity initiatives throughout tech and within the games industry, so I think that will come. But like in a lot of areas in gaming where you see, kind of very hardcore enthusiasts going first, there's obviously a kind of legacy legacy of slant there. So it'll take time.
My defense, I have a daughter that's 5 years old, and she tried VR from Gear VR to the Vibe. She really loved it. Tick brush, drop cut, and she really into it. So no sickness. And my little son, 7 years old, no sickness. He's too small, so as the universe is scale 1, he's too small in the VR universe, but yeah, we really enjoyed it. It's gender neutral. The girl or boy, we love it, so it will happen.
I want to lead into to Wanda, because we had a conversation about this a few weeks ago, and I was thinking about is that should we do something that specifically targets content for women and girls in virtual reality? Because will it, I'm thinking from a business point of view, will it expand the market? Are we missing a huge opportunity? Wanda was quick to educate me because apparently there are some myths about it, but I'll let Wanda explain her experiences with it.
I mean, I just go off of what we've seen already with mobile, and even if you look at other entertainment industries, if you look at like the film industry, for example, right? I mean, the films that are sort of those tentpole films are the ones that bring in everyone. That like Hunger Games, for example, had a female character, but it really was broad enough to bring in a lot of different audience base, right? So I think what we need to get to in for games, or just VR content, is that point where we're coming up with like content that is driven across genders without, I think the last thing we want to do is like pink everything. And I've talked to game companies that work on kids games, and they found that when they and this is on TV advertising, and this is several years ago already, they had online games, but they changed the message. They changed the message when they were targeting girls to boys, and what they found was the girls wanted nothing to do with the game when it was like pink and targeted at them. When they saw the boys version, they were like, "That's it, I want it," and they had a much greater adoption rate to when the girls actually saw the boys version. So I'm not saying that we need to direct the medium at like. We just need to be careful of how the messaging goes. But what I'm seeing in VR is that women and girls are like equally as excited as boys and men to the technology and the content and the experiences. So how do we create just diverse voices and diverse stories, regardless of gender? And I think that's going to be the key.
So we got one last question from the audience, and then that'll be the last question for tonight because of the time. So thank you.
Hi, thanks. Just wondering what your thoughts on what Apple might be doing in terms of the VR space. There's been all these rumors, everything, and if not, what do you wish they do to grow the industry?
You should ask someone from Apple that question.
What about Sony? The fact that Sony has the entire chain from the hardware, the game development, the distribution, and the VR headset. What kind of, because of that, what kind of impact they're going to have in the rest of the market? Are they going to be like the one VR thing that everybody refers to, or is that going to be just?
I think it'll mirror, if you look at the split between PC gaming and console gaming, there is a market for a more closed, vertically integrated appliance, which is what you get with a game console, versus a kind of open ecosystem like you have on the PC. There's room for both. There are consumers that find either one of those appealing. So it's it's good that they're doing stuff. I think it'll help VR overall, but it's not like it's not clear to me that it's the one winning solution.
It's going to be the winning solution for the next 2 years. It's plug and play. We put the PS Move, Warframes and play immediately. And I think that's a great opener for the market.
People wanted to study minute for Apple, then I see. Go ahead.
I don't know enough about Apple, so I have to agree with Guillaume. I think in virtual reality, Sony has it made because they're so consistent. I mean, if you were to look at, even if for whatever reason this year's sales don't add up to X, years 2, 3, 4, 5 are going to add up to Y. It's just because they're just blessed with that consistency. PC, they're going to have it made too. It's going to take more time. The industry has to work together more to collaborate, and learn from each other, and build that compatibility so everything works together smoothly. But again, PC has that advantage where the hardware is more advanced, the software is more advanced. There's a lot more you can do with that. It's just that I do think there's more industry-wide responsibility to make it happen.
I'm going to say that Intel will ship more VR units than any other company in the world.
Are we shipping VR units at all?
Not today, but down in the future we will.
Yeah, well, so we have a bunch of things that our devices group is doing that, depending on how wide a context you draw, we're going to ship a lot of stuff. So we're excited about that. Thanks.
So we end up on a good note, and I want to thank everybody on the panel and in the room. Thanks so much on that.
Yes.
It's our second birthday today, actually, for the Immersive Technology Alliance. Actually, we've been around longer, but we had the organization name and anyway, cake. That's all I know.
And Prosecco beer.
And Prosecco beer. So we just want to be able to get a picture of the cake and then get to dig in.